Right. So how do you take it from there? Tell me a little bit about the Ramdas experience that you. I think he led you to Maharaji, didn't he? Um, yeah.
Definitely. Not only did he lead me to Maharaji, but I, what I experienced when I met Ramdas actually turned out to be Maharaji himself. That's what I was feeling. It was coming through Ramdas and that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
intense, extraordinary power. At that point, he had just come back from India from his first trip, and he was just radiating. It was so beautiful. Everybody who came just was. It was like coming out in the sun after like the winter time. You know, it was just so
Mm.
beautiful. You know, like a real summer, not the English summer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no. So I had heard about him from some friends, and they went to see him, and I wasn't interested. You know, I just thought, I don't care about American yogis. You know, I want the real thing. So they left. I was living on their land and upstate New York, and they went off to meet
Yeah.
Ramdas, and they were supposed to come back the next day, and they didn't come back for like 2 or 3 days. Uh, and so I was standing in the driveway. I had just come out of the goat shed. We had two goats on the farm.
Yeah.
Madame Blavatsky and Alice Bailey were our two goats. And I had just milked the goats, and I came out, and the car came in down the driveway, this long driveway cutting through a field, and my friend gets out of the car, and he turns around, and he looks at me, and he had this look on his face, and light was shooting out of him. I mean, I couldn't
Uh,
believe it. I went right down the directions. I'm leaving now, and I ran out to my place. I got my stuff, and I hit
what
the
were you
road.
doing at that? Apart from milking the Theosophist goats, what were you
At that
doing with
time,
yourself at that time?
I
Yeah.
was driving a school bus for the
Uh huh.
local,
Yeah.
and you know, I was just sitting in my cabin, depressed and unhappy. That's what I was
Right.
doing.
Yeah. So you just
And I
you,
was
you
taking
had a day off the driving school bus, or someone has subbed for you, and you went down there.
actually,
That's
maybe I don't even remember. Maybe
You
it was
drove
on
the
a
school bus
weekend,
down there with the kids.
huh?
You drove the school bus with the kids down to
Yeah,
see
with
Ram
the
Dass.
kids.
No,
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That would be good.
And they never came back. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened to them.
parents love you. Or you went to, and you went to Ram Dass and you drove all night, I believe. You know, and
Yeah,
in the cold and in the storm, a
yeah.
blizzard or something. And how was it meeting him? What so you,
I
what
walked
was the
in the room
experience of
where he
meeting
was
Ram Dass?
sitting. I walked in the
Yeah,
room where he was sitting, and at that moment, without a word being spoken, he was actually sitting with his eyes closed in the other corner of the room. Walked in the room, and immediately, absolutely immediately, I knew I had this epiphany, and I knew that whatever it was I was looking for was real. It existed. It was in the world, and you could
mm,
find it. And that changed my life.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because before that, it's like this. Yeah,
But
I can really resonate with that because you got to read the books, you got to want to believe it. You know, it's like I'd like to believe that Ramakrishna's books are true, right? Like, but
yeah,
it's so outside one's own field of conventional normative perception, right?
yeah,
Growing up as you did or where I did, where there was no spirituality around really,
yeah,
and
nothing.
no one who had experiences you could talk to you about
Right.
certainly.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
right,
that was so. But you see, at the time, I thought it was Ramdas himself.
right,
You know, that's what there he was, and this is what I was feeling. So I wound up becoming close to him and hanging out with him as much as I could,
yeah,
and I realized gradually it was a painful time too because he was at the same time he was radiating Maharaji, he was also he was having his own issues about life, let's just say.
mm,
And so
mm,
there was this, it would be great, and then he would get angry or something, or he
hmm,
would be open and sweet and loving, and then he would shut down and be critical of you and nasty. So there was this strange thing going on. So gradually I realized that, wait a minute, it's coming through him. He showed us a picture of Maharaji, a little black and white picture. That's all I saw.
Mm. Mm.
So, but I realized as time went on that it's coming through him, and that it's Maharaji coming through him. And then I decided I had to go to India to meet the Guru. So,
and at first, I mean, I think your destiny like hung on a thread, right? Because you didn't get the address. He wasn't allowed to give you the address for. I mean, the Maharaji we were talking of Neem Karoli Baba. Right? Yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to be talking about him. His instructions were, Maharaji said, "Don't talk about me."
Right.
But he couldn't help himself, He had this jewel, and his natural inclination was to share it with people.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and in the end, one way or another, you have to read the book, everyone. But you found Maharaji, and you spent years there, right? A few years there.
He let me stay 2.5 years.
Yeah.
He literally he got my visa extended. Otherwise, I would have been sent home after a 1.5 years, or even more. But anyway, he got my visa extended and let me stay. And then a couple of months before the visa was up, he looked at me and he said, "You go back to America. You have attachment there. You have to go."
You must have been devastated. Yeah.
What? Well, I have no idea what he was. What did he mean I had attachment there? I left everything. I gave my jeans away. I sold my car. I sold my guitar. I had maybe one little cardboard box in my mother's basement of, I don't even know what. I had no intention of ever going back to America when I left America. When I went to India, in my heart, I didn't say that to my parents, but
was it always the experience when you were there? Did you, from the moment go, when you met him and you were in India, did you have doubts, or when you were there, it's just like, yes, I'm never going back, happy, completely?
No, I was completely at home in India.
Really?
Right. Absolutely at home. I loved it. I felt, in fact, in those days, the plane landed, then you had to walk on the runway to the building,
Yeah.
So I remember getting out of the plane and my foot hit the ground and I went, I'm home. And I realized I never had that feeling in my life before. It was, whoa. And it was just like, that's the way it was for me in India. I was at ease everywhere. I really, still, except now I'm old and cranky, but aside from that, India, is my home.
When was that? What year? And where was the ashram exactly?
Well, Maharaji's temples are up in the north of India. Most of them are in UP, Uttar Pradesh or Uttaranchal, which is the state kind of north and northeast of Delhi, around Delhi and northeast of Delhi. That was 1970. I think I arrived August 1970 in Mumbai. And we had met Baba Muktananda on the way to India. We had stopped in England. In those days, you could find these really cheap flights, but it was one step at a time. So we got to England, and then we found another cheap flight, but it wasn't for a week. So we were just hanging around. And Muktananda was on his way to the U.S. for the first time. And he was in London. So we met him there. Me and my friends, we met him there. And he said, he was very sweet to us. He said, when we walked in the room, he said, "These boys aren't English." I don't know what he meant. But anyhow, so.
We've probably got better teeth.
What's that?
Yeah. Probably got better teeth, I'd say.
Yeah.
You looked a bit healthier probably at the time. Better teeth, just better
teeth, healthier, maybe
physicality, yeah. And then when you were with Maharaji, when you first met him, what was the experience like, and what was it? I mean, obviously the book tries to convey what it can, but what was it like? I mean, the feeling of being in his presence, I think, was so profound that everyone wanted just to be in his presence all the time, right? And half the time you weren't allowed to be, right? You were sitting kind of over the ways and ways, waiting to be called up to sit with him, right? Why did you? I mean, like for normal people, normal in inverted commas, what was it about sitting with some Indian older guy that was so special, right? If you could try and elaborate on that.
If you could, in your imagination, imagine what it would feel like when you really felt exactly how you really want to feel, whatever that is, the feeling of being home, of being happy, being loved, being free. That's what it was like sitting with him. It was beyond that also. I mean, he led us into the room where love lives, and it was all free. There was no manipulation. Nothing was required. You didn't have to clean the temple. You didn't have to wash toilets. All you had to do was breathe and live. Nothing was required of you. You were loved as you are. You were accepted as you are. There was no trying to change anybody. It was a whole different ballgame than what most people consider spiritual stuff.
Yeah. And he didn't speak English, though, did he?
He spoke whatever he wanted to speak, but it appeared
really?
It appeared he didn't speak English. But there's stories of him sitting under a tree with two German guys for like 2 hours talking, and they didn't speak Hindi, and he didn't supposedly speak German, so he was speaking German to them. I mean, and when the translator would be translating a question to him,
he'd be correcting it.
I would be telling the translator the question. I'd finish talking, and then Maharaji would answer the question without the translator saying anything.
Right.
That happened all the time. He was overflowing with miracles and joy and happiness and depth of being. I mean, there was total trust also, which is such a rare thing in relationships with people. There was no question. This guy knew everything. He was the king of the universe. He was totally taking charge, everything. You had nothing to worry about. It was that kind of experience. And it's remained that for 50 years, by the way. I mean, that never changed for me, and for most of the first group, or for anybody who considers himself this devotee of Maharaji. Your life is not your problem. It's his.